Heads or tails? Heads, heads, and tails. Okie doke.
We're ready to get underway here. It's Grigor Dimitrov to serve.
Grigor Dimitrov to serve. Ready? Play. $15 live. $30 live.
Confident start off serve 214 for the second ace.
So in the old language, 6'3", Grigor, close anyway, between 6'2" and 6'3", really the modern type of body shape, isn't he? Long, levers, good athlete. And he can crack the first serve.
And what a way to start. Love game for Dimitrov. We talked about his new coach, Roger Rashid. Let's hear what he's got to say about his new charge.
Obviously attracted to working with someone like Grigor because of all the upside you can see out of a young talent. You know, he's got all the attributes that can place him at the top of the game. You know, so it's, for me as a coach, it's someone you can actually grab hold of, structure up, mould, and really develop someone whose ears are wide open to information as well. So with that, it's exciting. And if you have those great fighting qualities wrapped up with some talent, some structure around you, I think then the world's at his feet. You know, he's got an opportunity to create something big. But that's down the track. He's a 2 or 3 year player from now to be in a position where he wants to have real longevity in the game.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. There is upside here. It's obvious to anyone that knows the sport. He's got talent. He's got competitive ability. It's just harnessing it all in the right direction, I think. And certainly with Roger, getting the miles in his legs that you need to be a strong physical specimen. Gee, that's speaking of weapons. Gee, that forehand is Haase's big shot, and when he finds his range with that, that's brutal. This is not easy. That shot's deep. And so's this one. He steps back and cracks that. That's a low percentage shot for most players, but he made that look easy. As so many of the modern players do, you know, if you give them no pace in the middle of the court, even though that ball was reasonably deep, there was no pace on it, and he had plenty of time to get around and wail on the forehand side. So if he gets an opportunity to hit that forehand hard, he won't hold back, Haase.
Game, Haase.
And a love game for Haase to level at 1-1. Plenty of tennis still going on here at the grounds at Queensland Tennis Centre. Out on court one, Angelique Kerber against Kristina Mladenovic. Took the first set 6-2 and has another break to go ahead 4-1. That Fitzy, the last of the matches that are left for today, been an absolute full schedule, and boy, have the crowd's been terrific. Just they're piling in. It was a record crowd yesterday, broke a record, and I'm pretty sure it would be close again today. So we had 2 full houses, 2 sessions here, day and night.
Oh, gee whiz, he's found his range early on the forehand, Haase, hasn't he?
15.
He realises that that's his biggest chance here. When he gets his favourite shot to don't hold back.
30-15.
But I think if you go hard into that forehand, it can be a
15.
different story. And there was a bit of pace on that ground stroke there from Dimitrov. If he goes slowly into the forehand, Haase gets around and he can dictate terms on his own terms. He can dictate the point. But there, that ball had some serious forward speed on it from Dimitrov into the forehand wing, and it caused the miss hit.
Oh, that's a wild
Yeah,
one. Misses by a couple of metres, and another comfortable hole for Grigor Dimitrov. 2-1, first set.
Dimitrov leads 2-1. Take your seats quickly, please. Time.
Well, in breaking news here at the Brisbane International, disappointment for Nick Kyrgios. The young Australian had a wild card here. He's had to withdraw this evening. He was due to be on court tomorrow against Matt Ebden of Australia, and some issues with an injury. And unfortunately, it's a shoulder, and it's something that you can't mess about with at such a young age, only 18.
Well, gee, a little bit bricky with that drop shot there. Not necessarily the wrong choice, but I think the way he actually tried to execute that would be an indication that maybe he should just stay with the forehand next time. That was very stiff, wasn't it, and missed by a long way. That's more bread and butter.
Just to get back to Nick Kyrgios, hugely disappointing, because we've been talking a lot about the talent of Kyrgios and also Thanasi Kokkinakis, who's a year younger at 17, who's quality here and plays Leighton tomorrow night. But for Nick, he's a big boy, and you mentioned about building the body just a moment ago with Dimitrov, and it's one of the reasons it's taking so much longer for these young players to transition into the top ranks.
Yeah, well, I think the taller, bigger athletes take longer to progress too, Todd, don't they? And he does still in some ways have a young body. It's big. You know, he's going to be a big, strong athlete, but it just takes a few years to get used to the rigors at this level. And you can find a few spots that break down in the early days in the juniors and in your first year or two of the senior events. So, look, you know, if there's a big issue there, he's got to look after it, and hopefully he'll be back for the rest of the summer. But not much point risking it. But it is a big disappointment. Gee, I was looking forward to seeing him play Matt Ebden in an all-Aussie affair.
30 on.
Well, of course, that means the lucky loser will replace him. And what happens with that now? It's not an automatic. It's a sign-in tomorrow. So I think it's Alex Kuznetsov that would be the next in via rank. But he's got to be here. He's got to sign in. And it has to go through a process. So we won't know exactly who will play Matt Ebden until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Sometimes when the draw starts, some players actually jump on a plane and fly to the next tournament in preparation. Yep. So that's why that rule's in effect.
See, when he gets rushed into the forehand. So if you're Dimitrov, you'd be trying to make Haase rush the forehand, hit it hard and quickly in there rather than float it back. That's when he's prone to make a few winners. If you give him time, he's as good as anybody with that forehand.
Advantage, Haase.
I think this court would be a fraction too quick for Robin Haase too, to his liking. I mean, he's very capable on any hard court, but you know, with that forehand sort of, I don't want to call it a weakness, but if you go fast in there, this court accentuates that. Oh, that is a masterful backhand. That's world class. I tell you, Rod Laver, Ken Rosewell and Lou Ho to be happy with that.
So would Roger Federer too, because this was a beautifully played return. Got it down low, made his opponent volley up, and it was a good volley too. Look at the way he stayed through, the wrist curling around the outside of the ball.
He drew that ball.
It was beautiful.
He drew it from outside in.
Deuce.
Interesting change up there on serve. Just went with the three-quarter.
Well, made it jump. You know, the one-hander, until you become really strong physically on these hard courts with the ball bouncing high with fast balls, the one-hander can sometimes be left a little bit wanting unless the timing's really on. So smart, good play from Robin Haase here. Just gets the right ball to penetrate, doesn't overplay it, but follows in the good approach, and that's a simple put away using his leg speed.
Yeah.
Eventually he holds a tough hole, levels at 2-all.
2 games all.
Keeping you updated with what's going on over at the Hopman Cup between France and the Czech Republic. Tsonga took that opening set 6-1, ahead 4-2 now, so in good form. Yeah,
showing some early season form. Of course, Stepanek coming off another Davis Cup victory, so he wouldn't have had too much rest in the last few weeks.
Back-to-back Davis Cup titles.
Incredible.
For the Czech Republic. Thomas Berdych really leading them, and Stepanek coming up with some great matches.
That's a serious performance. You know, if you can win the Davis Cup back-to-back for your country, plus put up with the rigors of the week-to-week ATP Tour and the Grand Slam events during the course of 2 calendar years, that's a physically demanding schedule. I take my hat off to them. You expect that frame miss hit a little more from guys that take these huge swings. And Haase is prone, especially on the forehand side, the swing is massive. So you need to be early on the ball. Don't catch that late.
40 love.
this around for the winner. Love game for Dimitrov. It's 3-2 in the opening set.
Dimitrov leads 3 games 2-2. Time.
You can see why Roger Rashid is excited about this kid. What an athlete he looks like he may be in a year or two when he gets a bit more strength. Already covers the court like a cat. There's Roger. And Jason Stoltenberg, he's a proud coach there on the left of screen right now with Ashley Barty.
Oh, I thought he made that.
Yeah, that would have been clever.
Yeah.
15-all.
Well, Roger is renowned for pushing his athletes to the limits in terms of getting them to understand what hard work is needed, but why it's needed.
Yeah. The only thing in these early stages that I can see Dimitrov needs to be careful of with Haase, though, is that if he takes too many, if he slices this ball with no pace up the middle too many times, that'll happen with the first shot. So it just gives the upper hand to the opposition if you take too much pace off it, and Haase loves that.
In discussions with Roger, we're just talking about the game style of Grigor, and he said at times he's just really played hitting balls, not really structuring point, not quite sure on what style he's going to play depending on the day. And I think that's one of his goals, is to really set him up to play really structured tennis. Well, that's got to be good for Wimbledon, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And you can see the right smile there on Roger's face in the box. This is some clever stuff.
In watching him at Wimbledon this past year, though, a couple of the matches were tough, and it wasn't. He knew he had to do certain things, but wasn't sure when.
Mm.
That's too good. He gets the break.
And Dimitrov leads 4 games 2-2.
Out on court number 1, Angelique Kerber was well ahead and has match point here to go into the second round. And she's through comfortably 2-2 against Mladenovic.
Love 15. Love 13.
So the backhand wing is not as physically strong, is it, as the forehand? It looks like,
Well, it's
in the early stages of his career, anyway.
But the reason being, really, let's be honest, is it's a single-hander. And you just can't generate as much power off a single-handed backhand as you can a double-handed backhand.
No, and you know, in some ways it gives you a bit more versatility, but obviously most players these days have the two-hander, but he may need to get just a bit stronger, I think, in the shoulders and arm.
If you had your time again, would you use a one-hander or would you use two?
No, I
15-30.
think you do what comes naturally, but I think, you know, the number of players that hit two-handers these days sort of answers that question for you. And, you know, we don't see the greatest player of all time with the two-hander, but it just so happened that he learnt, Roger Federer, with one hand, and that suited his game. But yeah, generally speaking, the odds are the players use two-handers, but he's not going to change his technique that drastically, is Dimitrov, and he needs to probably get a bit stronger, especially with the ball up a bit higher.
It's still a classic shot.
Oh, it's beautifully structured. Gee, what a beautiful mover he is, though. You know, he played a good forehand there, and then when he realised that the return from Haase was going to be a little weak, he skipped beautifully. After this shot, he just moves like a cat around to hit that forehand from the backhand corner, and that was the end result.
See the balance and how well he kept his head steady, didn't come up out of the shot until the ball was well and truly over the other side of the net. He survives. He leads 5-2, Dimitrov.
Dimitrov leads 5 games to 2. New balls, please. Time.
There's probably a slight lack of dimension you can just detect there from Robin Haase. As good a player as he is, when he was forced to move wide and chip that ball, there wasn't a lot of feel on that one. That's a big miss. Really, that's the type of ball he wants to receive from the good first serve, and out of nowhere really overplays that one. This first set is in danger of disappearing in a heartbeat or two.
Love 40.
Gee, how quickly has it turned around? Love 30 in that last game, and then it's excessive points here to bring up set point for Dimitrov.
Fifteen 40. Thirty 40.
One left.
He served well, hasn't he? Just to keep his flame alive in this first set. Like to see that from a player fighting hard. Twice he's tried that. He obviously plays that a lot
Advantage
in his repertoire of shots, but on a slow clay court or even a slower hard court, it's a lot easier to...
This one came on to him quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, faster hard court, pretty hard to make that shot consistently, and he's overplayed two of them.
Fourth set point.
deuce.
It's a lethal forehand, though, isn't it? He pulls no punches with it, Robin Haase. When the ball's there to be hit, he doesn't hold back. That's where I think, and he's indicating there that the ball's really exploding off the court, coming quickly through the surface.
I think exploding off the racket of Dimitrov too. He's
that too.
timing it beautifully. Set point number 5 for the 5th seed. And he gets it this time.
First set,
Grigor Dimitrov takes the opening set, 6 games to 2 in just 28 minutes.
6 games to 2. Take your seats quickly, please. Ladies and gentlemen, seats, please. Time. Second set, Dimitrov to serve.
Fabulous opening set from last year's runner-up.
15 love.
And I think he's a case in point, Todd, this young man from Bulgaria, where if you've got an option, you try to tell young players to have diversity in their game, to be all-court players, to have options. And he's really the modern version of an absolute all-court player. He's not restricted. He can hit every shot in the book. He comes forward well. That's a bad choice of shot, but he's multifaceted. You know, he's not a one-dimensional option.
Last night, Fitzy had the privilege of
15 all.
Being at an event interviewing both Rod Laver and Roger Federer, and we talked to Roger about the development of his own game. And it was interesting to hear him say that it took him that few years to totally put it together and believe that he could win majors. And whereas we discussed Leighton Hewitt at the same time, because we talked about the famous match that they played in Davis Cup in 2003, the semi-final, where Roger should have put him away and didn't. But that was a turning point in Roger's career. He mentioned that particular match for him got him in the mode of learning to put matches away, and it changed the course of his career from there on in.
Well, these two players here are contrasting styles, though. And, you know, the man in picture is ranked 43 in the world. He's a heck of a tennis player. But he doesn't have the dimensions that this man has. He's more multifaceted, and you know, it might take you longer to put that into play and to understand how to control all of those options you have, the choice of shot. But if you can put it together, you know, then it gives you the sky is much higher.
Absolutely.
Ceiling much higher.
Let first serve. Again, Dimitrov.
Holding serve easily tonight. 220 that first serve from Dimitrov. Set and one love, and some of the highlights of the first Fitzy.
Yeah, look, mostly belonged to Dimitrov. And that backhand down the line we just saw was the best shot of the night so far. It was a beauty. Came outside the ball, but he's showed us a big repertoire of shots here. And, you know, he's hit winners from all over the court, used a lot of different shots, mixed his game up well. Maybe hasn't shown us his full repertoire yet, but
and first
he's got some talent, hasn't he? All the spectacular shots you've seen from Robin Haase have been off this wing. Now that's fine if you can get into a position to hit that shot most of the time. He can hurt a lot of players, can Haase. That's how to turn defence into attack pretty quickly in the space of one shot.
And a great example of the modern string, if we get to see a replay. This ball here, see how out of court he is, see how deep, and that flip of the wrist, and he's able to get a huge bit of spin and height to get control and depth, and automatically he's got that ball to come off. If he still played with an all-natural gut restring, you couldn't hit that particular ball.
Can you name anyone in the men's game that plays with an all-gut restrung?
I don't believe anybody does anymore. Still, there's the odd lady that does, but none in the men.
Yeah, so the modern strings have the poly strings that they use now have changed the sport more than the rackets, probably.
Quite a few play with the blend of both.
Yeah. Roger. Leighton still.
Yeah.
That's a good change up. That's another dimension. And, you know, he needed it. A second serve at 15:30. He knows he has to do something a little better.
Just back to those strings quickly. It tends to be the ones that are still with the blend, Fitzia, the ones that started their careers with the natural gut and have progressed with the technology but haven't gone to the full setup.
And what we're trying to say, the polyester strings, to make it clear, create more spin on the ball. So the trajectory off a Guthrie string in the old days was a lot flatter. The trajectory now is more high to low and spin on the ball that makes it dip.
Game, Haase.
Good hold for Haase.
1 game on.
And this is still to come tomorrow. It's going to be a magnificent matchup between one of Australia's greatest of all time, Lleyton Hewitt, taking on what promises to be one of our next generation of great stars in Thanasi Kokkinakis. That's tomorrow night.
15 love.
Thanasi was in the program with an old mate of ours, Brod Dyke.
And then you can see he's tweeted, he's earned it, he's pumped. And this is what I play for, an opportunity to play against one of his idols in Lleyton Hewitt.
Good on him. Yeah,
30 love.
I think Brod Dyke deserves a lot of credit for the early years of Thanasi Kokkinakis and also Luke Saville.
Special mention too to Todd Langham, who's done a great job. He actually started him from his very beginning.
Absolutely, and you know, sometimes the early coaches of players, though, really, you know, they can be forgotten in terms of the credit stakes, and I think it's important. A couple of quality coaches there. Anyway, Dimitrov continues to serve out of a tree here.
Wait, please.
Only the fourth point he's lost on serve in the match.
40-15.
Roger's feeling pretty confident up there. You can read his body language, can't you? He'd be happy with proceedings so far. Well, a rare error on the serve. First double fault of the match so far for Dimitrov.
He eventually holds, and it's Dimitrov up by a set and 2-1 in the second.
And Dimitrov leads 2-1. Time. $15 love.
There are two of Australia's prominent coaches, well respected around the world. Both spent time working with Leighton Hewitt in his prime too.
30 love.
Jason Stoltenberg was there when Leighton won Wimbledon, and Roger Ashe had spent close to 6 years with Leighton.
Let first turn.
Well, late reaction from Haase. I think he thought the serve might be good enough, but the strength at the end of his range there from Dimitrov really did produce a quality return, and it caught Haase by surprise. That's where I think players would try to attack Haase, try to take the ball early and get it back hard and fast into either corner, but I think particularly into the forehand corner where he might be rushed, but he was rushed there on the backhand side as well. So needs to work hard here, Haase, to hold. He's sort of overpowering him when he gets the forehand, isn't he?
There was no time. You can see him just hanging in basically in those rallies. He knows where the ball's going. He's reading the play, but he's just being beaten by pace. Great point for Dimitrov.
That racket head speed, it's so modern in its sort of technique, isn't it? Long swings. Oh, that's clever.
Yeah,
class.
What a beautiful couple of shots there. Well, Maria Sharapova, she went through comfortably 3 in love here earlier this evening, and here's what she had to say about finally hitting the courts in Brisbane.
Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 years in the making, so actually when I was walking out on the court, I was like, whew, that took a while. Yeah, last year I made it, but I had a few practices, but didn't end up playing. So yeah, I mean, it's just as exciting for me as it is for the fans that came to watch me play, because I've been meaning to play this tournament for a really long time. And poor tournament director Cam, he doesn't believe it until I walk out on the court anymore.
Oh, fabulous to see her finally get through. And gee, she looked good tonight, Fitzy. It's first match for her since August, so a long break through injury, and 3 in love she went through. Very promising start. Good form for the new season.
Tell you what, Fergus Murphy was looking good there too in the chair. One of my favourite umpires. When his accent is back in town, you feel like the summer's coming, don't you?
He lived in Sydney there for a while. I'm not sure if it's still his base or not.
Dimitrov really getting on top here. He's got too much versatility at the moment, does Dimitrov. This is an impressive display. I feel a little bit for Haase. You know, the first match of the year, he looked like he was hitting the ball really well early, and then he started to look rushed. And that can take away a lot of confidence from a player.
(40-15). Game.
And another easy holder serve. Dimitrov well and truly on top. 6-2 and 4-1.
Dimitrov leads 4-1. Seats quickly, please. Time.
Well, here at
15 love.
the Brisbane International, Fitzy, in a regular tour week, the WTA are allowed to bring a coach out, and we've heard some interesting tactical change-ups. If you had, the men don't have that rule in place, but if they did and you had the chance to get to Robin Haase, what would you be saying to him?
Gee, thanks very much. I think I'd say
15 all.
do your utmost to get a reasonably penetrating first serve in on your service game so that you don't get put on the defensive. Because as soon as he's on the defensive, you know, 95% of the time he's losing the point. So he needs to get into a position after the serve to hit the first aggressive shot.
30-15.
But, you know, the longer the point goes on, it looks like, you know, Dimitrov can get back on an even keel and then take the ascendancy in the point. So as well as his opposition's playing, I'm not sure if there's any answers at the moment.
15.
Just hang in there and hope that the Bulgarian goes off slightly. Well, he did the right thing, got the easy shot, and I think he was watching out of his peripheral vision there. I'm sure he saw Dimitrov take off towards that backhand side and he overplayed it. Gee, this is impressive though. Roger Rashid will be thinking he's peaking too early here. He played a bit like this in the early rounds last year to make the final in Brisbane here. He obviously likes the conditions.
Well, I think that's something that Roger's talked about, and you talked about the physical part. He did play incredibly well, lost to Murray in the final, but then physically, he died out. He went to Sydney, he wasn't able to cope, played a poor match in the opening round. If anything, probably should have withdrawn to give himself some rest to go to the Australian Open. The rest of the summer didn't pan out the way it should have.
Then Haase.
The Haase, well done, hangs in. The 4-2. Live tennis action going on over
Dimitrov
in Perth at the
leads
Hoffman Cup. Joe Wilfried Songa. He won earlier against Radek Stepanek, and that's Petra Kvitova up against Alice Cornet of France. That match live on 7mate right now.
Love.
He's been impressive on serve. Only in one game so far throughout the match has Haase been able to get any pressure by winning an opening point.
Love.
He's handled these slightly quicker conditions.
Did you see him there just, using his hand as if the ball, shaping the ball? Because if you can just keep an eye on this serve here, the ball cuts off the court, moves a lot.
Yeah,
not much you can do about that. It's the 6 ace for Dimitrov, and he leads by a set and 5-2.
Dimitrov leads 5 games 2-2. Time. Love.
Robin Haase got to do everything within his power just to hang in, put some pressure on by making Dimitrov try to serve the match out. No, might get a touch nervous.
Yeah, and the scoreline is one-sided there, obviously, but
Love.
I think if you're Robin Haase, you wouldn't feel like you played that badly. He's just been smothered with the versatility of his opponent, and
Love.
sometimes it comes down to matchups. He would have probably beaten a lot of players here tonight. It's not over yet, but it's heading that way if he doesn't turn it around somehow very quickly.
Game, Haase.
Love game.
Yeah. Good on him.
He hasn't had a love game since the second game and his opening service game of the match.
New balls, please. Ball change.
He's not happy because it's a ball change. Dimitrov will serve for the match with new balls. It's just a little bit of a mix-up with how many balls are being put out on court. And funny, the superstitions of players are quite interesting, aren't they? Because you wouldn't take a new ball off the ball kit over in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Had to wait till it went to his preferred kid.
Gee, quality. And there's fewer players these days that have the quality technique on the volley than there used to be, and but this is perfection. You'd be happy with that, Todd. Short backswing, open face. I don't know who Grigor's first coach was, but he taught him a lot of good technique.
Well, no nerves shown in serving for the match. Quickly, he's at 40 love. 3 match points for the number 5 seed.
First time. Game, set and match. Dimitrov.
There it is. What an impressive performance from the number 5 seed.
2 sets to love.
Grigor Dimitrov straight through to the second round.
6-3.
Very comfortably. 6-2, 6-3.